Johnny Carson once interviewed Betty Davis and asked if she had any advice for young starlets wanting to get ahead in Hollywood. She suggested take Fountain. Fountain Avenue runs parallel to Santa Monica and Sunset Boulevards in Hollywood and is often used to avoid the heavier traffic. And isn't that what we're all after? A smooth run, no hold-ups, not only in traffic, but also in life. How do people handle those hold-ups, the rejections? How do they create a life in the entertainment capital of the world? How do they identify and express their uniqueness in a place where hundreds of thousands are hoping to do the same? Welcome to Take Fountain. Compelling stories from passionate people who've made it, are making it, in Hollywood. Writers, comedians, actors, filmmakers. I'll talk to anyone with a story to tell.
Welcome to Take Fountain, a podcast of passionate people working on their dreams. Compelling stories from Hollywood. Your host, Ella James.
Welcome to Take Fountain. This is kind of revisiting the past, but also hopefully getting something new. I want to introduce my guest today, José Arroyo, a writer, a cartoonist, a comic, a performer. He's the whole package, the multi-hyphenate. What do I say? Welcome, José. It's lovely to have you on the show again.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you.
It's been get to see your gorgeous face.
Oh, I told you there would be traffic noise.
That would be.
I just heard a flurry of horns. I think they were announcing the podcast, though. So.
That's what we love. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on again. I looked it up and I did this podcast in 2016. At the time, I was working for Conan on his TBS show, Conan O'Brien, and we had already gone to Cuba as part of his travel shows. So a lot, has changed. Obviously, Conan's show ended in June, and the travel shows have been sort of in suspended animation because of the COVID situation. So, so a lot has changed.
What's that like when you come off a show like that? What was your thinking? What did you think would happen next?
So it was a mix of feelings. For one thing, I had worked with Conan since 2002. So 2021, it's 18 years of almost 19 of being with the same crew, the same people, and writing late night humor day after day. So all that we knew, that the show was coming to an end, that Conan was bringing it in for a landing. So I had time to process that. But I didn't realize that you do miss so many of the non-show elements of it. The community of your friends, the writers, the routine turned out to be a big thing that I missed. The daily affirmations of, hey, good job, or we'll get them next time, or whatever it is. All that, of course, ended not just with the show ending, but with COVID locking us into our homes a little bit.
Mm-mm. I got a television commercial a couple of weeks ago, and my agent for a voice, and my agent reached out via email and said, "Do you want to do this via Source Connect from your studio in your home, or do you want to go to the studio in Santa Monica?" And I said, "I want to go to the studio. I want to mix with my tribe. I want all of that. I'm going to get up. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to drive down the 405. I'm going to go to Santa Monica. I'm going to walk in and have that, hi, I'm here for this. And would you sparkling or still, Ms. James?" Right? And this is this engineer and this engineer, and here are all the clients on Zoom. And I was like, that's fine. But it was just, and here's your script on the music stand, and let's adjust your mic, and here are your, like, all of that was just, it was ambrosia.
It was the stuff we either took for granted or got used to, in the normal course of a actor's life. And you try not to in certain ways, you try to be cool and downplay your excitement in general. You just want to be part of the professional group.
Hey,
but we miss it. So when we're away from it, we come back to it. We just really appreciate it with much more intensity. And I haven't done stand-up since the COVID sort of abated, but that audiences are very grateful to be out as well.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that side of it. I haven't dipped my toe back into the stand-up pond. A couple of reasons. Some of my friends picked up a breakthrough COVID from performing.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to risk that. Just to be extra careful. But also, I don't know whether my funny has gone. Do you know what I mean? I've started to write all new material, and I thought, I don't know. I mean,
Well, so I think this sound like two different things because, first of all, your funny is embedded in you. It's part of your DNA. It's part of the way you express yourself in this world. It's a chord that you can play. But new material is new material, untested, untried. So that's like a double hurdle. One is that muscle memory that you may have to regain, and then the other is the all new material. So that's quite a challenge for you.
Yeah. Well, you came along, thank you, to my one-woman show that started off as 2 shows on one night and went for 17 weeks and finished the week before COVID.
Oh my gosh.
So I was so grateful because I was producing and investing and doing all of that myself. So that would have been really awful. And then I streamed it through an overseas site called showcatcher.com that was doing a lot of theatre in London and pantomime and that kind of thing. And I crept in off the back of that. And that was
Congrats.
a little bit to be able to offer, thank you, to be able to offer that to audiences internationally. But it was a 44-minute show run on a streamer. And so, that was it. That had all of its own thing that was going on. And a part of that, as part of being a performer, there's a tremendous drive now to create your own content. And what that means is more than writing something and performing it. It means, am I going to employ a professional crew to be able to shoot this and then sell it to Netflix? Yes. Is that where I should be going? And that just seemed like too much for me.
Okay.
I love your traffic. I'm sure you just...
So I live outside the Atlanta Motor Speedway. No, it just sounds like it sometimes. I just knew that if I had a podcast, it would be extremely loud out there. But I live on near a busy street, so
that's okay.
Yeah,
there are many things you will be judged for in your life, and this is not one of them.
Right? I hope not.
That's it. So tell me about with the leaving of Conan, which I nearly called COVID. Did you think to yourself, okay, this is what I want to do now, or had there been things bubbling away?
Naturally. So 18 years, you're in the same job. And you can't help but wonder what's on the other side of the fence. And for me, the other side of the fence was scripted work, sitcom writing, episodic stories that go from one day to another, or one episode and they're connected. So stories like Blackish, or cartoons like Bob's Burgers and things like that I just related to, enjoyed. Hacks is a show, and I thought, what would it be like to come into a meeting and say, okay, well, this is where this arc is taking us. With very few exceptions, that's just not something that they do in late night. So I was very curious about that. And it turns out that is its own skill set. So we were talking about your one-person show versus stand-up. They're similar elements, but they're two different animals. You were creating an emotional arc in your one-person show that had to be sustained over 44 minutes. And, a stand-up set is just a different animal. So I think it was similar. I was feeling the same things, which was, I'm really good at this after 18 years. I want to see what else is out there. So after the show ended on the 25th, I told my agent, I want no more to do with late night writing. Do not put me up for consideration. Some people, of my friends, got jobs in talk show writing right away. I was just not interested. So I sent her my pilots, pilots that I'd been working on for years, kind of kept to myself, and very muted response. Let's just say that. So I because I'm such a sort of determined person, I thought, well, then the answer is more pilots. I have to write my way up in terms of skill level so that I can play with other people who are being offered positions, or creating their own stories, as you were saying. And I do acknowledge in front of your viewers that my stand-up jokey side is far more developed than my story side. So that I think I have to bring that up. And that's where I am now. I'm trying to bring that up.
When you're
as soon as the show ended, I started writing pilots, and finishing the comic book. So
when you're the best at what you do, and then you're adding another skill set, how does that feel?
Well, I would say that if you were a clarinetist in an orchestra and you loved it, but after 18 years you were tired of playing clarinet in an orchestra, you say, I want to go to a jazz group. They're going to tell you that is a different kind of playing. You got the skill, you have all the things, but the feeling, the spirit of it is different. And there may be a learning curve regarding how to learn how to play a different kind of clarinet. And that's what I feel like for me is I got good at a certain kind of joke writing, short form, quick release. And then now I have to figure out a way to sustain the story longer and make it intriguing beyond one episode, but making a reader say, okay, good, what's next?
Okay.
So that has been something that I have to focus on more. This for me means taking classes, by the way. I acknowledge where I'm not good at something, and I think I'm not good at self-directing my pilot writing. So I need to be held into account, with deadlines and peer readings, and you read mine, I'll critique yours, and so on. And that's been very helpful. I joined a writers group that keeps me somewhat honest.
And I think the other thing is, before one gets exposed to something like this, one has something is happening in the background that you're aware of, but not really aware of. And over the past 2-3 years, we've had things like Fleabag and, oh God, it was just on the tip of my tongue. And now it's this, I Will Destroy You.
Yes.
Right.
Wonderful.
I May Destroy You.
Yes.
So we've got all of these seemingly first-timers creating their own product that the various platforms have gone, I want this. Now, of course, we know the story behind it. There's a lot more than that. But suddenly there was this, if I want to do something, I've got to be that good. I've got to be Fleabag. I've got to take this to the Edinburgh Festival and do the Fringe. And is that there's a pathway, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing that you said that I really agree with, and I know we've discussed this before, but maybe not publicly, is that when I came over here in Australia, I was the top of my game. As a voice actor, not as an actor, not as a comedian, but certainly in that voice sphere. And then you come and you're nobody. Not unkindly, but no one is aware of what you do. And so there's a proving that has to happen, and a meeting with the right people. Like every meeting has to be a winner.
Yes.
And also, I think, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, when I was younger, one thing led to another, to another, to another. And here, I'm sorry, that's now my noise is the trash being collected.
We live in a big city, Ella.
This is a big city.
Yes. This is
but
normal.
one thing leading to another, to another, to another. And I did a couple of things where I was ADR, for example, so recording dialogue from a film that had already been completed, and the particular actor whose names I can't say because of...
I love it.
It's
First
his
there were
job,
horns.
so he likes...
It's percussion. I had horns. You have percussion.
We should mix them.
I
Right.
think so.
But yeah, so I started working ADR for these very well-known actors and providing those voices. And I said to my agent, now that I'm working with this studio, should we also let them know that I can do this accent and this accent and this accent? And he said, "Oh no, we want them to know you as the expert in that."
Oh, okay.
And that's not...
So narrowing your focus. So his thinking was we make you very specific to a certain skill set and kind of
That's
ignore your other talents.
Yeah. So I was like, but, you know, you've got these people working on your behalf. They know what they're doing. And so that's what you do. And then most recently, I got the most fun job as Julie Andrews from Bridgerton. I was Lady Whistleblown for the NFL draft.
Yay.
And
That's great.
Was fun.
So the combination of Bridgerton with the NFL draft is just an amazing juxtaposition.
The showrunner's Twitter feed had people going, "Oh my God, I didn't know Julie Andrews liked football."
Yay.
And of course I was like, "It's me, 'tis I can do this. Quick, get in touch with casting for Bridgerton in London. Like, I can do this." Oh my gosh. But that's
fantastic.
But it is, but it's like, one thing doesn't lead to another, to another, to another. You've got to keep grinding away and
Exactly.
do far more training. Like you with your classes, I do far more training than I did in the previous 20 years of my career.
Because you are outlining a different path for yourself. So then the question becomes, for me anyway, what is your keel? What is the thing that you can sort of, as you're exploring different things like taking classes and so on, what do you come back to? And this may be a little, shallow or flighty or whatever. It has to be something I really want to do. And so basically I won't take any job offer just for the satisfaction of getting a paycheck at this point. Maybe I'm just not starving enough yet. Everything has to go back to what is it inside me that I want to bring out, and that has been guiding me these last it's only been 5 months since the show ended. What do I want to bring out from within myself? And so that has led me to playing more music, learning GarageBand, and drawing, and the things that kind of water my soul.
Right. I love that you've tapped into that, because sometimes it can be like you're, I can't even think of an analogy, maybe a ship being tossed in a storm, because you have so much that you could do that you go, "Oh, I'll do that," and "Oh, I'll do that," and "I'll do this," But I've turned down some things because they weren't the right rate. And
Yes.
And I don't think in our industry we can afford to be that person that lowers the value of what we do in our craft. But there has been, for some voice actors, for example, because we're largely working from a home studio, that clients have said, not to me, but to others, "Oh, well, you're just doing this from your home studio, so what's your rate now?"
Oh,
Well,
of course.
I mean, really, the rate should be higher because they're now, doing things as engineers that they wouldn't do previously. So I have not
Exactly.
had to entertain that, thank goodness. But I think that, as you said, finding your keel, which is many things, but finding your keel, and it's not arrogance. It's not, "Do you know who I am?" But I
don't feel it. It's not arrogance. I feel it is
No.
staying in line with your your calling in whatever you're doing. It just sounds so shallow because we're full of sort of pop, sentimental, self-help jargon. But really, if you can find something that fulfills you, then you are on the right track for who you are. And I'm talking about accounting. I'm talking about anything. So if it fulfills you, then that, is in line with your life's purpose, with what you feel you were put on this earth to do. I firmly believe that. I have to believe that. I'm right now in the dark or in a fog of non-employment, of non-income. And I think this industry rewards people who can get comfortable in that fog. Mm-hmm. And say, keep walking, keep charting your course and so on, because something will present itself and you will go to it. You just have to stay. You just have to not despair or give up. Again, I'm fully aware that I'm only 5 months out of a job, and that this is. I know that other people have been out longer and have had to deal with other, COVID-related stoppages or issues or health issues and so on. But my feelings are still the same. Is find your true calling and pursue it.
Oh, it's so lovely to hear you articulate that. Yeah. And I wonder what you think about this, that notion that when we first set out, we have made a decision that this is what fulfills us. And then when we have a realization or an understanding or a change that, oh, hang on, that no longer does it for me, I'm going to be brave and change.
I'm going to be brave and change. And it takes guts. It takes guts, because the thing that you're used to, the thing that you're familiar with, for example, you staying in Australia, would have been the easy thing to do. It just would have not nurtured your soul. Your soul said, no, I have to try it in this bigger field and in this bigger world. And may I ask you, do you ever regret not staying in Australia?
Never. This has been the hardest thing on so many levels that I have ever done. There are a number of things. We talk about the tribe. The tribe formed a lot of my friendships. And without a tribe here, it can be very lonely, but fortunately we have FaceTime and people can be global. Financially, certainly, one hemorrhages money, right? But it is what it is. But the people I've met, the experiences that I've had, the learning I've had across personal and professional has been immense.
Yes.
I regret nothing. Absolutely. And I saw something the other day. It was so funny. The little 25-year-old, I think, daughter of a friend of mine in Australia who lives in rural Australia in the country. And she posted on Instagram stories this wonderful piece of young people, running through fields and dangling their legs off cliffs. And the narrative with music was, if you are brave and you leave what you know and you move to a new country and you do this, you will be happy. And I was so excited to see her post this. And so I wrote, that's me. Heart claps, And she wrote, it's the best thing I ever done.
Ah, I love it. I ever done.
She moved 2 hours north.
Oh, that was her big move?
That was her big move. So the other thing is, sounds like I'm laughing at her.
Not at all.
What I'm recognizing is that our move can be to stay in the same place, but internal. It can be a physical move. It can be the house down the road. Like, whatever our bravery is what it is inside.
I 100% agree with that you don't have to physically move anywhere. You just have to, in the case of this career that I had of writing late night jokes, and now I'm moving to trying to find my footing in scripted, that is a big change. And it's, took place in this apartment. So you're right. It's internal.
The other thing is there's an assumption, or at least maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just being anecdotal. There's kind of an assumption that when you reach a certain stage in your career, you'll have all the contacts lined up. So you can just reach out and say,
right.
Hey, let's grab a coffee. I want to talk to you about, me moving into this sphere. And you either don't have those specific contacts, or people that you've known for a long time aren't prepared to share their contacts with you. What's that been like?
So that's been totally a factor of my combination of shyness and it's actually an unhealthy mix of shyness and arrogance, because I don't want to add. I know showrunners, and I know people who are producers of sitcoms and so on, and I don't want to meet them like this. Please, can think about me for a job and so on. And that is a lack of humility on my part, to be honest. And I may be suffering the consequences of that. But that is paired with, don't rock the boat. Don't impose yourself. They have their own staff and their own people. Who are you? And all this stuff. So it's a high, it's an imbalance of self-esteem that I think will be ironed out once, something will have to shift inside me where I can meet them on an even plane. It's like, okay, well, you have an opportunity and I'm looking for an opportunity. Can we talk about an opportunity? I have to get there.
They never have seen you like this. They have maybe never even thought, oh, I didn't know you wanted to do that. You'd be perfect for this, blah, 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 blah.
1,000%. I'm assuming that the world knows that I'm at large and at liberty, and it's just not true. It's just not true. So it does behoove me to just knock on some doors.
You're listening to Take Fountain with Ella James.
Do you have, let's say, a spiritual or a mental health practice to move you through?
I have daily habits. So they're not spiritual necessarily, but the things that ground me are writing exercises and drawing exercises and push-ups, being very candid, every day. And it's one of the, maybe it's a little bit of compulsive things, but I feel like once I have given my hours to maintaining my skills, then I have done all that I can do for myself. It does seem, since this conversation, that I could probably grow the skill of reaching out to people and telling them that I'm looking for scripted opportunities. But as far as maintaining my ability to write and to draw and to stay physically healthy, I do what I can every day to stay available, to be ready when called.
Yeah. I think grounding, that's a good word. That's what it is.
It grounds me. Exactly.
And not to be, I found that I had to jettison some of my should friends. You should. You should. And I'm like, that's you. But
don't
it's not
should all over me. I hate when people should all over.
Doesn't exist on my keyboard now. Sorry.
There's a lot of advice that people are comfortable giving. You're right.
Yeah, and particularly, so I ran the show for 17 weeks. And it was 60% scripted, 40% improv, and it depended on the audience on the night. Yes. I could see them beyond those front rows and the lights and so on. I could see what was taking them on a journey, and I could play that, which was great. That very satisfying for me. And over those 17 weeks, 17 times 60 was the audience that saw it. Don't make me do the maths. But there were 3 people who, unsolicited and unskilled, decided that they wanted to offer me their advice as to what I should do with my show, right? And I found that really weird, because old Ella would have gone, oh my God, I'm getting it so wrong. Why didn't I think of that? And everyone must be laughing at me. You know, I mean, self-esteem 101. But instead I was like, wow, I wonder where that's coming from. Are they qualified to offer that advice? How much of this should I take on board? And then I got very quickly to none of it.
Oh, okay.
Show. If they want to do it, let them put on a show. Let them create something and put on a show. Because it was very, and it wasn't arrogant. Like, I had long, very experienced producers and writers and funny people like you, who were all of those things, come to the show and be glorious in your praise. Gosh, that was very religious. Glorious in your praise. But it was great. It made me feel good. But nobody of your caliber said, and this is what I think you should do, or this is what I think you could do.
I see.
Right?
I see.
And I think it's very important when you've found your keel and you know what you're doing, find qualified people. Like, it's not that you don't want advice, but find qualified people who are going to move you in a different direction. Like, maybe it does need to all go up in the air and be shaken about. And you do have that moment where you go, because you're too close to it, or you lack a skill set in a certain area. That's fine. And be open to that. But when you're nurturing your little baby squirrel, you've got to keep it close, haven't you?
I do feel like the scripted is my little squirrel, is my baby squirrel. And I agree. It's funny. I'm in a writer's group where the point is to get feedback from your peers. I haven't had the same situation of performing in front of an audience and getting unsolicited advice from audience members. That has to be difficult to deal with. But when it's your professional peers and so on, even those, you can take or leave the advice. You can say, okay, well,
because their particular problem could be that they've always looked at their own lives through a very blinkered, one-dimensional lens. So if they're bringing that to the party, you've got to ask yourself, well, how valuable is that going to be to my project?
How can that help me? Exactly.
Is very successful at what they do, they may not know how to get your project going forward. And so it's I always found that I needed somebody in my court who could make those calls for me and set them up, and I'll handle them. But it's kind of that the movie kind of manager. You know, somebody called Morning.
The one that you see in a movie, yes.
You know? And the number of, I have four representatives who look after me, none of whom know each other. Well, there's voice, theatrical, commercial, there's East Coast, West Coast. But it's taken me 8 years to get each of them also to the point where I can have an open conversation with them without any of those, excuse me, the meek shall inherit the earth, if that's all right with the rest of you. Sorry to trouble you. You call me back, right? Or I'm not important enough.
It doesn't serve to be meek. There's a friend of mine once told me it's actually a kind of pride to lower yourself or debase yourself. You're not, and this is getting religious, but I don't, but he's saying, you're kind of insulting your creator by playing yourself down too much, because that creator didn't didn't make you,
Well,
didn't want you to
one
be
thing I
smart.
was told was, these reps who've taken you on, they've taken you on because they believe in you. So why would you put any doubt in there? Like, you want to
Exactly.
grow. You don't. And even when it's a question of having a regular chat with them, to say, what could I be doing? What could I bring to the table that's going to make your life easier? What do we need to do here? Learning how to have those kinds of conversations.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
and staying
you
on
live in interesting
top of them
times.
or in touch with them and so on, because I think it's almost subconscious
Yeah.
that when
Yeah.
you're reaching out to them, then they're more aware of you in general, and their little antennas will pick up opportunities that they may have ignored if you hadn't been in touch with them. So very much, I think it's very important to do that. And by the way, I'm not just telling you, I'm telling me. Reach out to her
Well,
more
the
often,
best
Jose.
conversations are when, right? The best conversations are when we're able to take something away. That oftentimes I say something to someone, and the lesson is for me.
It's for you as well. Exactly.
And I want to move to talking about the pandemic. And one of the biggest things for me in the pandemic was that I had a lot of time, and so I started going down that consciousness, meditation, awake awareness kind of route, where I was able to study with various people on specific courses online, and my neighbors, I would tell them a little bit of what I was doing, and they would see a change in me, and they were like, "Oh my God, Ellie, you should so be like a teacher of this. Like, people would so, And but I realized that when I start teaching, I stop learning.
Okay.
And it was, right, and it was around that time that I realized too that whatever I was saying to them or to anybody was to bed in what I was learning, not that I had this great, vast knowledge that I should share with the world, because guruism is a career path, particularly in California, right?
Yeah,
where
no
you learn
question.
something, then you set yourself up to, and I would make a freaking amazing guru.
Can I be your underling? You're the guru, and then
Yes.
I'll be the person who sort of, runs interference with the media and saying, when Ella said, everyone give her money, what she meant was,
Everyone give me money. Yeah.
Yeah, she meant literally give her money. So,
So let's talk about the pandemic.
You're absolutely right. Guru is a career choice, especially
It is a career
in California.
choice. Because the speaking circuit, the corporate speaking
Yes.
circuit is based on find something that you do really well, generally sales or customer service, write a book about it, create online content for it, and then get in front of large audiences and prowl the stage with
that's right. The hands-free
one of
mic.
those mics, hands-free mics, and be our flower lady. You've always got to have a flower on your lapel if you're a woman.
Make yourself memorable.
Make yourself memorable, and have something that. What do you call it when you have the capital letter at the front of the word that then spells something? A mnemonic.
Oh yes,
a mnemonic.
yes.
You've got to have a mnemonic. And you've got to have stories. Don't even get me started.
I love it. So what does it mean to be best? It means to be bold. It means to be extra. It means to be super talented. And we'll get back to
tangible. It's got to be tangible.
tangible. There we go. There.
You've got to be able to reach out and touch it. Oh, my gosh. So listen, you might have a new career. Let's write a sitcom about a corporate speaker who discovers themselves through the BS that they tell on stage.
Believe it or not, it was a sitcom with Jason Alexander, and it lasted less than a season. He was a motivational speaker. And I don't remember what channel it had on, but it was shortly after his success on Seinfeld. And so it was out in the ether. It's like, okay, this is a whole world unto itself. These motivational speakers and so on. And there was that movie also where I'm flaking out now, but that world is totally ripe for for picking at. So,
well, anything with a human ego is right pickings,
Yes,
And
yes. But I also think we're all eager to, we all hope someone else has the answer. Don't you?
But we know, I know now, that everything is inside. It's already there. I'm just unpicking the damage, the BS that I believed when, I thought that I had to take it from, oops, my light's falling over, to take that's okay. It's just, where's my lighting technician?
It's a very localized earthquake.
But I think peeling away all of that stuff, knowing that the expertise has to come from the experts, which is why we go to a writing group so that we're learning from our cohort, from our peers. Is that a nice experience? Do you enjoy that?
I do, because I get to see what other people are working on, and I get to either admire it or say, oh, well, I feel like I have the tools, a small toolkit that I think could help adjust the things that I feel are missing or not quite working for me. And then I just present it. I just say, hey, this, and I always say, if you disagree with me, then you're right, because I'm not going to wrestle, this is a collaborative group. And so, but it's good to have notes from the outside for something that like you said, you may have been so close to it, you don't see the bigger picture. So it helps to have that. And also it's just accountability. At some point it's going to be my turn to turn in something and get notes. So I can't just fritter away the days.
Yeah. A friend of mine in Australia, she owned a publishing house, and she's just an extraordinary woman. And I met her when I interviewed her for her first book. And she wanted to talk to me the other day, a couple of weeks ago, because she felt that I should be writing a book. And my attitude
Right.
My attitude towards writing a book is, before you write one, read three.
Okay.
Right. But she said to me in the middle of it, she said, Ella, it came to me the other day. Ella, storyteller.
Huh?
You're a storyteller. And I was like, oh, that's freaking. Oh, my God.
Was she making a play on your name, Storyteller?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
And if I was Ella James Incorporated, I would probably sling that off to my marketing department.
Of course.
And say, what will we do with this? But when you're your own marketing department, it's like, oh, that's nice. I'm going to put that off to one side. So,
Right.
Two things I want to talk about. Your cartoon, your latest comic book. But before we do that, let's talk about the pandemic. How was it for you?
The pandemic started, in around March of 2020. And at that time, Conan and a small group of us writers were going to go to Argentina to do a Conan Abroad, it's Conan Without Borders show. So the first indication that something was up was we were getting these daily notices that certain flights were stopping and certain places were no longer available to go to fly. And the producer at one point said, given the rate of this infection, it is possible that we could go to Argentina and then not be allowed back in the US without being quarantined. So we canceled the trip, and shortly after they closed down Warner Brothers, and we were all sent home. And Conan still had to do shows, but now he was doing them from his home. And so the writers quickly, we all learned the same languages, the languages of Zoom, of different meetings and so on. I was I didn't get into sourdough making, but I did get into yogurt making of all things. I don't know why, but I started doing that, and I was sort of processing the fact that I may never see the group that we were working with at Warner Brothers ever again in the context of work relations. I could email them and so on, but the studio was closed, and month after month, as we were told early on, well, by the fall this will all reopen. It didn't, and then spring, or it never did. And finally, he announced that he was ending the TBS show, and sure enough, it was a strange for me career-wise and for personality, because honestly, my friends were at work as well. Yeah. Most of my friends or people I saw every day were at work, so I lost both the work and the personal relationships, and I just had to deal with that. I was very fortunate in that I didn't lose anybody close to me to the actual virus. So I can't say that I had in any way sort of the worst extremes of what was going on. I was scared, but mostly scared because at the time the then President Trump was, to me, not showing very good leadership. To put it as mildly as possible. So I felt like we're not being taken care of by by the government as well as we should be, and this seems to be running rampant. And so it was difficult to sort of maintain morale at that time. So I would say that I could consider myself very lucky that that the virus itself didn't affect people close to me. So, and I know it did for a lot of others.
Yeah. I mean, I know of people.
Yes.
I know people connected to people, and people that I've worked with, but no close friends.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
But I mean, some people overseas were like, "I can't get my hair cut." And I'm like, right. my neighbor just died. Right?
Yes, exactly.
So it was really
those are the two extremes. I can't get my hair
cut.
cut. My neighbor died. Yes.
And I underwent a personal transformation in that I started off the pandemic morbidly obese, and now, I'm half my body weight. But one of the things for me was that, thank you, but if I got
health, wonderful.
If I got sick, they weren't even going to put me in a hospital. They were saying that if you were morbidly obese, they're just going to kind of leave you in the car park kind of thing. I mean, remember in the early days, there were all kinds of rumors and it was scary. And that was a real thing. It actually wasn't a motivator, because I was already working with a dietitian on resolving that particular thing. But it was certainly a fear. And I was going to Trader Joe's to do a shop once a fortnight, and I was shopping for some of my neighbours who were much older and certainly weren't leaving the house. And in those days, of course, it was if you are over 70, you are at extreme risk.
Yes.
And I would go out walking on my own or with a friend. But yeah, it was. I knew at the beginning of it that I was going to be a different person at the end of it. But at one stage, I thought the end was going to be 2 weeks away. And
naturally, they kept extending that deadline.
Things down for 2 weeks.
I do feel that no matter what happens with new variants and so on, that we will probably never go back to that full-bore quarantine. We're just too ornery as a country right now to ever be told, okay, everybody go back in their homes and so on. So, I mean, that's worrisome for me because, we don't know what's coming ahead. I think we went from, full shutdown to this gray area, which is where we are now. Where, like you said, you might be worried about doing stand-up in enclosed places. The holiday shopping season is coming upon us, and there will be more opportunities to congregate. It's getting colder, and so on. So this is the first winter of this new gray era, and curious to see, how we'll behave. But I don't think anyone is going to force us to be going to go back home and stay there the way we did early on. I just don't think so.
I don't know what the future holds.
No, exactly. Which again leads us to, and I'm sure you found this, to sort of grow your inner resources a little more, become comfortable with that lack of mobility. Not like it, but have to deal with it and grow skills to manage it.
You know what I missed more than anything? Random contact with strangers.
Exactly.
I can Zoom my friends.
I miss orgies too, Ella. And the thing is, no, I agree though. I agree. I agree. The habit, but also, to have to be masked, we don't see the full face and so on. It took a toll.
Me without lipstick. I mean, look at it. It's not good.
It took a toll on her.
A comic book.
Oh, thank you. Well, there it is. Yes, that you could
way to this.
Put a strap. You could put 2 straps on it and just wear it as a.
Why haven't? That's a great marketing thing. Let's get our marketing department to work on that.
Somewhere in LA.
Right.
So what Ella is holding up is a comic book that I wrote and drew. Most of which kind of came together during the pandemic, and it's kind of a quirky, funny, thoughtful book of what could be happening in Los Angeles over the course of 24 hours. And there's no doubt, and again, there's a good, okay, so somewhere in LA, a couple tells each other their real ages. This is just something that's happening in LA at that hour.
Oh my gosh. And somewhere a Yorkie is shitting in a bag. That was
in
one of my
Fendi bag, yes. Somewhere in LA, a Yorkie shits in a Fendi bag. Again, because that's, there are wealthy people here who buy designer bags and tiny designer dogs. And so I kind of like that one. Somewhere in LA, a director calls for a cut that the editor had suggested 4 hours earlier. That comes from...
A friend of mine would be like, oh, yeah.
So my friend who's an editor said, this is great. I touched a nerve with that one among the people in the editing community who obviously are constantly, in a dark room. They know their story, they know their project, and yet they have to wait for the producer or the director to tell them what to cut, what to leave in.
Yeah. Employ me for my expertise and then keep telling me how to do it over and over and over.
And over again, exactly. Don't trust my skills.
Description that came through. Would you ever accept that job?
Would I ever accept which jobs? Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. Yes, please second guess me at every turn.
Yeah, like Ella, when you grow up, would you like to rush somewhere at 5 o'clock in the morning and be in makeup for 10 hours and then, no, that's not what I thought I was doing, but I want to lift writers' words off the page.
Exactly.
This is absolutely wonderful. When did it come out?
So it came out officially last month. I posted it on Amazon, and it's downloadable as a Kindle and as well as a paper copy that you can get. I think it's less than $5. And the reason I did it is because I got the idea years ago. Like, I wish somebody would make a quirky comic book about 24 hours in the life of LA. And I realized it had to be me. I had to do it in order to make it the way I wanted it to make it. Mm-hmm. So I avoided most landmarky things. I didn't do anything about Hollywood Boulevard and stuff. And I just focused on these smaller, more intimate moments, some of which could only take place in LA, and some which are more universal. But it always with this sort of this background of, yes, somewhere in LA, a dishwasher bikes from Westwood to Echo Park with $72.50 in his shoe. I did that simple. I just wanted to make it's like a little window or a portal into this man's life. And And so I did stipple inking or whatever. It took hours and hours to put all those dots to make it look like it was night and light from different places was hitting him. So, yeah.
It's just so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
As usual, you and I could speak for hours, and in fact, I think we just have. But I wish you all the best with this, but I wish you all the best with everything. As usual, let's close the podcast with me saying, don't forget to include a role for me.
You got it. You got it.
Oh my gosh. It's so exciting to speak to you again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and blessings to both of us, and I look forward to touching base again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
You've been listening to Take Fountain with Ella James.
Available at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player. You can also stream on demand at Bytes.com.
This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.